Hello, pre-calc students. This is Mr. McAllen. This is day 18 video solutions for solving some tricky trig equations. And in all these equations, these are heterogeneous nonlinear trig equations, and we have to use identities to help us convert them to trig equations that are homogeneous or only deal with one trig ratio. So we're going to look at number 3 because the first two we did in class. And we're going to go through the rest of them, and I may pause the video just because certain steps you should know, and I just want to advance through the video quicker. So in this first one, we need to switch everything to the same ratio. So we're going to take advantage of the reciprocal identity, or quotient identity, to cancel out the cosines. And then we're just dealing with sine of x is equal to a half. From the many problems we've done so far, you should now know that the reference angle is 30 degrees, and the first and second angle, remember you're dealing with a quadrant 1 angle and a quadrant 2 angle. 30 in quadrant 1 will be 30, and 30 in quadrant 2 will be 150 degrees. Moving along, we use the same approach on this one, and we have sine of x over cosine of x for tangent. And on this side, we have 2 times the sine of x. Now, in this case, we're going to cross multiply by cosine of x because we don't want to just get rid of it. Well, we can't get rid of it. We have to, solve for the angles that work. So we get 2 cosine of sine of x times cosine of x. And now, because this is a nonlinear equation, everything should come over to one side. So we have root 2 sine of x minus 2 sine of x cosine of x. Now, the art with solving this problem is we do GCF factoring. So I'm just going to take out the sine of x. And what I'm going to have left is just root 2, because this part was taken out of both parts, minus 2 cosine of x. That equals 0. Now, we're going to set sine of x equal to 0 and root 2 minus 2 cosine of x equal to 0. Remember, if you have a product of any two things that equal 0, as we do here, A or B has to be 0, so we're solving for both cases. In this case, sine of x equaling 0, that must mean that x is equal to 0 degrees or 180 degrees. And that comes from our trig chart, or our table that we use. On this other one, we solve for cosine of x, so you get negative 2 cosine of x is equal to negative root 2. Cosine of x is equal to negative root 2 over 2. The reference angle in this case, I divided by negative 2, that should be positive now, sorry. The reference angle in this case is a 45-degree angle, and cosine is positive in quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. So our two answers are going to be 45 degrees for quadrant 1 angle and 315 degrees. Moving along. Here we have a trig equation, and we need to convert it to all cosecants. So we're going to use our Pythagorean identity to do that. And our Pythagorean identity says that 1 plus cotangent squared of x equals cosecant squared of x. So cotangent squared of x will be replaced with cosecant squared of x minus 1. So we're going to just make that replacement. And I have minus cosecant of x equals 1. And remember, when you have nonlinear equations, everything moves to one side through addition or subtraction. So I have cosecant squared of x minus cosecant of x minus 2 equals 0. This is pretty easy to factor. You have cosecant of x minus 2 and cosecant of x minus 1. Each individual term gets turned into, we solve for 0, so cosecant of x minus 2 equals 0. Cosecant of x minus 1 equals 0. Now we solve cosecant of x equals 2. Cosecant of x equals 1. Moving right along, sine of x is a reciprocal. We have 1/2. Sine of x here, the reciprocal of 1 is 1. And for this angle, for sine to be equal to -1, the solution is just 90 degrees from your chart. For this one, our reference angle is 30. And remember, sine is positive in quadrant 1 and quadrant 2. So our first and our second solution are going to be 30 degrees and 150 degrees. Next problem, we're going to replace cosine with squared with 1 minus sine squared. So I have 2 times 1 minus sine squared of x equals 3 sine of x. 2 minus 2 sine squared of x equals 3 sine of x. I'm going to move everything over to the right side because I want to make this term positive. And then I'm going to subtract 2. So my factors are going to be 2 sine of x. Now you would use normally the x method to do this, or factor by grouping, but I'm just going to go right to the factors. So now I have what works out to be the factors. This is equal to 0, so I set both parts equal to 0. This one on the right says sine of x should equal -2, and we know by now that there's no solution to that part. And on this part, we get sine of x is equal to 1/2 again, which means the reference is 30. The first solution is 30 because it's in quadrant 1. And the second solution in quadrant 2 is 150, just like over there. Next problem is we need to change tangent squared to, that's basically 1 plus cosecant squared. So I have 2 times 1 plus 1 plus secant squared. Nope, I'm sorry. I'm going to look at my identities. I know sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. So that means that tangent squared of x is equal plus 1 equals secant squared of x. So what I'm going to replace tangent squared of x with secant squared of x minus 1, and you'll find that on your identity card. I just had to do a little bit of thinking back to what the identity was with my memory. So let's secant of x equals 0. We're going to multiply through. Don't forget to distribute. Now we just write out our trinomial. We do our factoring. So we have 2 secant of x. Secant of x, this will be minus 2, and this will be plus 1, and that results in the correct factors, so that's set to 0. From this equation, I have secant of x is equal to -1/2. That means cosine of x is equal to -2, which has no solution. Cosine can only be a value from 1 to -1. From this one, I have secant of x is equal to 2. That means cosine of x is 1/2, and that does work because that's within the range of cosine. The reference angle is 60. And remember, it's quadrant 1 and quadrant 4 answer for cosine being positive. So x1 is going to be 60 degrees, and x2 is going to be 300 degrees. Number 8, got to make that 2. We're going to put in 1 minus cosine squared of x plus 3 cosine of x minus 3 equals 0. We're going to multiply through. We now have, I'm going to move everything over to the right so I can make that positive cosine squared of x. So that's plus 1 on that side, and we're just going to factor this. and that should work out to give us the factors. Remember, both terms are set to 0. So cosine of x again equals 1/2. The reference is 60. The first and the fourth quadrant angles are 60 and 300. And then we have cosine of x is equal to 1. X is equal to, on the chart, 0 degrees. And that would be it for that. I think we have 2 more problems, and we're over 10 minutes. So I'm just going to do them as quickly as I can. 2 sine of x plus 1 over sine of x equals 3. So I'm going to multiply everything by sine of x so that I get rid of the denominator. 2 sine squared of x plus 1 equals 3 sine of x. Everything comes over to the left so that we can factor. We factor it using your x method or however you factor. Minus 1, the factors will work out so that when you set 2 sine of x minus 1 equals 0, you basically have sine of x equal to 1/2. And now we use our reference angle, and that's 30 degrees. And first and second quadrant angles, because sine is positive, is going to be 30 and 150. And then we have the other one, the sine of x minus 1 equals 0. So that's sine of x is equal to 1. That means from our table that the sine ratio, we're at 90 degrees. Last problem, replace that with 1 minus sine squared of x from our identity. So you got 2 times 1 minus sine squared of x plus sine of x equals 2. Multiply through. Move everything over to one side. The 2's cancel. So we're just factoring out basically 2 sine of x, and not 2 sine of x, just the sine of x, and we have 2 sine of x minus 1. So we have 2 solutions. Sine of x equals 0. Sine of x from this part equals 1/2. X equals 0 and 180 from this part from our chart, and x here references 30 again. The first answer is 30, and the second one is 150. Hopefully, this video has helped you understand the process for working through all these trig equations. That was pretty fast what we did, but if you slow it down and look at each step and work through the problems with me, hopefully this helps you understand how to solve these problems more efficiently. Have a good day. Thank you for your patience.